All right. Hey, y'all. Thank you all so much for joining another episode of Celeste the Therapist Podcast. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, Mass. I always tell people it's the best city in the world. And if any of my teams have ever did anything wrong to you, I apologize. What I do on this podcast is I get to talk to amazing people that do things to empower other people by sharing their story. But I also come on here because I love talking about relationships. So I'm going to add my co host who helps me do that to the stream. Hey, hey, co host.
Hey, what's going on, Celeste? Good to see you.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm gonna kick this off by telling you something.
Okay.
Uh, the reflection of your screen is in your glasses,
Oh, okay, okay. Let me take them off.
but without your glasses, I suspect that you can't see. By the way,
No, I can see. No,
okay.
I can see. I've been having issues with them, but I want to make sure that we are seeing each other really good.
All right. Well, good to see you.
Yeah, I'll start off by saying that my kids are back in school this week. Um, Fall feels like it's here. A lot of transition for people that are listening, I'm sure. So it feels kind of hectic. So just kind of be mindful of that. I think sometimes when things start to change, we don't change with it. We just feel
Mm,
all of these things and we don't recognize what's going on. But for people with kids, especially young ones, and I have three kids in three different schools, so emails and getting everything. Your eyes, people listening, Jeff's eyes got like, whoa. Yeah, three different schools. So it's been extremely hectic, but I'm here.
yeah. I'm busy shipping 18-year-olds off to live on campus. So,
Oh my god, that's like exciting and not. I'm a super like the paranoid mom, so it's
well,
exciting, but
well, you know what? At a certain point, you've done all you can do, and if
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
if they join the biker gang or whatever it
I
is,
know.
if you raise an 18-year-old and he joins a biker gang, then it is what it is, and he's an outlaw now. So what are you gonna do?
Well, speaking of college, there's a college there's a question, so I'll put this one up first.
Sure.
I should have had it ready. Um and for people that are new to this podcast, so when me and Jeff go live, we get our questions from people who write in on the website. And then we talk about it live on air. You're always, if you're listening to this on the replay, you are always welcome to join in on our episodes. So I'm going to put this up on the screen so everybody can see the question. Oops,
Let's
I think I
see.
put too much on the screen. Hold on, let me just see. Uh, oh wait, let me just delete some stuff. Uh, it says place your question here. All right, cool. I'm gonna put it up now. This is better. All right, so I'm gonna read it now, just for the audience's understanding. Jeff does not hear these questions in advance. I'm the only one who sees them, but so I always let Jeff go first. But it says, "What's the website to ask the questions?" So I'm gonna read the. Let me just type this in the therapist with the therapist.com/podcast. All right. So how do I convince Jeff loves these convincing stories, these convincing questions.
Yeah.
How do I convince my 19 and 22-year-olds to get It's so interesting that Jeff was talking about shipping somebody off to college. He really, I swear he did not see this question.
I did not.
How do I convince my 19 and 22-year-old to get counseling? One is in college and the other recently graduated with no job yet. Have a great night.
Oh, 20. I'm going to assume that 22-year-old is the graduate, but that's all right. That's pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So the writer doesn't mention why both of these young people need counseling, right? The writer doesn't
Yeah.
mention, but let's assume. I think it's probably true that most people, more than 50% of people, could probably benefit from some form of counseling. What do you think about that, Celeste?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think with the right person, the right match, I think it
Yeah.
can't hurt. It's just like physical, just like with going to have a physical, right? Like we can all benefit from
Yeah.
seeing a doctor.
So yeah, so let's take for granted that this is accurate. Well, in strength-based solution focused practice, which that's a big part of my practice, I'll try to give you a quick primer. Ready? For any proposition, there's 3 levels of folks. There's customers, browsers, and visitors. Okay. Here's what a customer is. They say, Mom, I think I need therapy. So in other words, the thing you want them to do, they're ready to buy it. Right? The next level would be a browser. They say something like, you say, you want therapy? They say, yeah, I'm kind of just low. I mean, really, I don't really need therapy. I need, all these other people need to start acting right. In other words, other people need to change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'll maybe I'll go to therapy if everyone else does XYZ first. Until then, why do I have to change?
Mm-hmm.
And then a visitor is somebody who literally goes like, no, therapy's fake. In this case, they say, that's fake. That's not necessary. I don't believe in it. It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they're just, so if it was there's a customer who wants to buy it, a browser who's kind of looking, but they're not going to buy it. And then a visitor, I just got dragged to the mall. I'm not into this at all. I wish I wasn't here.
Right.
So then what do? She's wishing for a customer. I don't know if she got a browser or a visitor, but she don't got a customer. Well, the game within the game is to find out what folks are a customer for. So what does that mean? Let's say that says a 22-year-old doesn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, all right, so hey, 22-year-old, you happy graduated college? Yep. You want therapy? Nope. Okay, it makes perfect sense. Hey, 22-year-old, what do you want to do a job? I do, but I don't know. I find it hard to get up in the morning because I just feel hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
So you do. So if you felt like you think like you'd have a better chance getting a job, which you do want, if you felt like motivated to get up in the morning, is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. You go, okay. Well, what do you think is it possible that could be depression? I don't know. How could we find out? Because you want a job and getting up in the morning is part of that. How could we find out if that's depression and or make it better? What could we do?
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, well, I guess I could talk to somebody. Good. Why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea. You want a job. Talking to somebody is going to help you on the path to get that job. Therefore, it sounds like you want a therapist, 22-year-old. Celeste, does this make sense what I'm saying? Kind of how
it makes a lot of sense. I actually get parents who email me, not on this website, but email me a lot, trying to figure out how to help their kids. When this Facebook user, I don't know why it says Facebook user, but it says basically how do I convince my sons to take care of their mental health. That's how I read it. And I do want to acknowledge mental health is more than just therapy. I also want to acknowledge to the writer part of, I think, how we can convince our kids is by like living a lifestyle that we want them to live. And it doesn't mean we're doing bad things, but like in regards to like taking care of myself, right? So if I'm telling, I've had parents like, oh, my kid needs to do this and that. And I'll be like, but I work with them, right? So I'm just like, but you've taken a while to get to that point and you're a lot older than them. And sometimes it's hard to see it because you want the best for your child, right? Or your partner, or whoever, or your friend. But a lot of people are pushing for success for other people and not themselves. And I think part of it is what Jeff is saying. Another part is look at the way you are taking care of your mental health. And also if therapy is not an option, like think outside the box. I think podcasts like mine's are great. But there's tons of, I'm just throwing it out there. But podcasts are great. And there's things that are geared towards that population, where you can probably introduce them to groups, whatever town you live in. I live in Boston. I always see so many dope things for people. I'm only in Boston. I know people like, oh, there's nothing to do, or there's nothing. There's so many like nonprofits and groups that a lot of people aren't aware of. A simple Google search or Eventbrite, where you may be able to introduce them depending on what the issue is and where they might be struggling. I don't want you to lose hope just because they may choose not to do therapy, because therapy is just one thing of many things that we're able to do to take care of our mental health. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think all that's true. What we have in common here is you're talking about getting some momentum, right?
Yes.
So right now, these folks have complete inertia. They're not from the short sentence we have, they're just parked. They're not going in any direction. You're trying to get them to go in a direction. And you're trying to say, well,
Right.
I know what's good for you. So go in that
Right.
direction. And they're saying, no, you don't. I disagree with your advice, and so I won't do it. And I'm technically a grown adult, so I don't have to. That's
Right.
accurate. They don't have to.
Right.
So the game within the game is to figure out, well, what are you motivated to do? And then how does this fit in? It's, as Celeste notes, it could be another way to find out what they're a customer for. Well, okay, well, I do want to feel better, but therapy, I'm not pouring my heart out to some stranger, because that's just,
Right.
or I'm not crazy, right? Things that people say about why they won't go to therapy. You go, okay, I hear you on that. So I found this podcast I listen to called Celeste the Therapist, and it really, it's I find it so interesting. And she talked to Romany Malco, is that the guy's name? Right. So she talked to him, and he's a movie star, and you want to act, so you could listen to that one. Right. And okay, well, even if I don't care about therapy, I care about,
Right.
I'm interested in, like, this person knows an actor, I'll hear that.
Right.
And they'll listen to that. Basically, you're saying, well, what are you motivated for? Then the hope is that's a gateway to something else. Right. Because it's really hard to go from 0 to 1. And then it's a little easier to go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3, 6, 12, 24, 48. Right. It just goes exponentially. And so that's what you're trying to trigger. But you also have to accept that you don't control other people. And so
that's the hard part too.
And it's your kids, and you did used to control them. You did used to, but now you don't.
Yeah.
And you have to accept to some degree that you can make the path easier, but that just like you did 50 bonehead things that messed up your life, you're not gonna somehow help them totally avoid bonehead things.
Right.
Being a bonehead's part of living.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I hope this was helpful. I know we're both parents, so like we know how challenging it can be. But try to use those tips. And again, not make it just about therapy. Go to therapy. But like Jeff said, kind of getting them into something. I feel like this was similar to a question on the last podcast, but just kind of easing them into it. You'll be surprised, people, that you're not the only one going through these things that come up, because I feel like there's a lot of themes in what we say, and the questions be completely different, but the themes are the same.
True.
I'm gonna put this up since you're in here. So how do you handle mentally everything going on in the world today? I feel I hold it in my spirit. Should I push back from the news and social media? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Jeff.
So if you say, should I push, I'm going to make a prediction. And is it Kendrell or Kendrell? I don't know, but I'm going to go with, I like Kendrell for what I'm reading. So tell me if you do this. You open your phone, and either you go on Facebook, and as you scroll, it's full of negativity and things like that. But somehow you don't stop scrolling. You click on things because it says, this thing in your water may be killing you, or 5 people that are awful, and you read it. This has a term. It's called doom scrolling. You ever heard that term, Celeste?
No, I never heard that, but that's exactly what happened.
Right? Where you're just, as you scroll, it's just like the polar ice sheets are melting. Trump looks like he's going to get away. Unemployment is coming back. COVID-23 is going to get you. And it's overwhelming. And this is because there's a reason why the media climate is like this, which is that controversy sells. And this is what it means. Let's say you see a story and it has a headline, and the headline says, puppies make you happy. You go, that's true. And then you scroll past it.
Yeah.
If you see one that says, you won't believe the racist thing a local politician said, then you click that. What is that racist thing? Right? Because you're more interested in things that are negative or dangerous. That's what we're all like, right? Donald Trump got very popular earlier. Remember, at one point, it was unfathomable that he was going to be president.
I know.
Remember that. In 2015, people said, obviously he won't win, but man, it's crazy that he got this far. Guy became president. Guy still has fans and stuff today, millions of them. But here's how. when Trump says something outrageous, supporters share it because they love what he said.
Yeah.
But you know what else happens? His detractors share it because they say, "Can you believe this guy?" So he gets amplified louder than someone else who says, "It's good to be kind to people." Who shares that? That's
Mm-hmm.
uncontroversial. But
Mm-hmm.
when he says, "I think we should punch," I think we should punch liberal women in the head. He didn't say that. But if he said that, certain people would share it and say, "I agree." Other people would share it and say, "Can you believe the misogyny on this guy?"
Right. Right.
And so that's why your social media and news looks like that. And so the cure, I would say, a known cure, is to take a hiatus. Right now, just daring yourself to take a hiatus is probably not enough. What? Because don't you reflexively? You ever close it, put your phone down, pick it right back up, open it again? You ever done that? Like within 5 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a reflex. We're trained. You get a little red number notification. It trains you. So the game within the game, delete it off your
Yeah.
phone. You don't have to delete your Facebook altogether. Log in from a desktop. See
Yep.
if you do that 20 times a day. I bet you don't.
You
It depends if
don't.
you have a desk job. But still, suspend it like that and see. Or give yourself, say, I don't do it after such and such time or before such and such time or only for an hour. But make it hard for yourself and see if that doesn't, I don't promise you, but you can look this up. Look up doom scrolling and the cure. And what you'll see is that many people report that they feel better because they walk around feeling like a clenched fist all day because they've
Yeah.
just heard bad news every 10 minutes for every hour that
Yeah.
they're awake.
Yep. Yep. And that was really good. I never heard of doom scrolling. I have a name for it now for people. And a lot I don't like when people say like social media is bad because it's kind of like it's what we allow in our lives, and being mindful on, like Jeff said, I don't have Facebook on my phone. I get so many DMs and I know people think I'm ignoring them, but I just don't look at Facebook. And then Instagram, I'm mindful of like what I look at. And my feed looks like funny stuff and food, because they're paying attention to what I'm slowing down on and stopping at. And so like for people listening who may have the same question, even with the news, like, well, I gotta watch news. Okay, watch the news, but don't let it be the first thing you wake up to, and try to recalibrate your algorithm in your head with something positive. I actually have a Kindle on my the Kindle app on my phone. So like when I'm like waiting or doing something where there's time, I just click on the Kindle and read. Like I did that. I put a lot of intentional things in place. I don't have notifications on my phone I don't have my work email on my phone. Like I've really created some separation, because I understand the psychology behind what the media does. They want to keep you on, right? It's not free, right? They're collecting your data. They're putting all this advertisement and this fear in you. And like you said, there's so much going on in the world today. We can't solve it all, right? I'm working on mental health, but it's just I'm one person and there's so many needs, and we can't solve it all. It won't be solved tomorrow. I refuse to be living in fear because of everything that's happening. And the only way to do that is to curate and be mindful on what I entertain and allow into my life. Or my spirit, like you said, I feel it. My spirit, yes. If that's what if you're entertaining your spirit with all this negative news and stuff, you're gonna feel it in your spirit. But if you start to entertain it with something different, I promise you can have a sense of peace despite the chaos that's happening because you're not being consumed and absorbed by it.
I think that word curate was a magnificent choice of vocabulary.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, Jeff.
the,
Because you
your
stay
idea,
using big words.
the idea that you're curating
Yeah.
your feed
Yeah.
and then also moderating the degree to which it just has a straight pipeline into your psyche every day, all day,
I know.
right? Uh, that is very important. 24-hour cable news is another one. Some people, they just turn it on in the morning and it stays on all day.
I know.
Talking heads are just talking about, this thing might be the end of the republic. I'm not even saying things aren't the end of the republic. That's not even my claim. There are dire important things going on. I'm not saying tune out, everything's going to be fine. I'm saying you have to
Right.
carve out space, just like people who have really dark jobs, right? Like a coroner or
Yeah.
a homicide detective.
Yeah.
If all they do is do that, it starts to wear on them. And you
Yeah.
have to have other places to enrich yourself and to check out, even if it's important. That's
Yep.
just the situation.
Yeah, 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 yeah. My mother used to text me news stuff. Oh, this person got. I was like, listen, don't be putting that in my phone. You better keep that in my yeah other kid's phone, but don't be putting this crap in the group chat.
You're right.
um. Okay, so this one is actually similar to what we just answered, but it says, how can I work on my mental health? I work full time. I'm a mom with a 5-year-old. Working from home caused me to get into a slump. I have not been taking care of myself the way I should. I try to implement new ideas to my routine, but I find myself struggling with staying on top of it. What are some tips you can give to help me stay consistent?
Mm. So I think I love the detail. It's always helpful, folks, when you write in, see this level of detail. This mom really fleshed out her question, and I feel like that helps a lot. So first of all, you say, how can I work on my mental health? I work full time. I'm a mom, 5-year-old. Well, when you mention that, how can you not? So first of all, to reframe it as if that's some kind of, listen, how can I do some extra thing like working on my mental health? I work and I have a kid, right? You won't be able to work or have a kid if you were to say have a mental breakdown. You won't be able to
Yeah. Oh
parent
my
the way you
God,
need
that's
to
so
or do your
good.
job. So first of all, to reframe it, that's like saying, I can't, listen, I'm too busy driving to change the oil in my car. That's not how that works. If you don't change the oil, that car won't drive eventually, right? So that maintenance is important. Um, so you got into a slump because which I'm gonna take to mean like, you feel a little. I'm not diagnosing you with clinical depression, but you're a little depressed, a little, and I'm reading that as uh, you're kind of pouring from an empty cup at this point, right? That you work, you take care of your kid, which I talked to somebody about this today. You love your kid. Your kid's great. I know you're a great mom. You love your kid, but you're like the most funny and interesting person your 5-year-old knows. But your 5-year-old is not the most funny and interesting person you know. And they want to talk about Sesame Street. Yeah, I don't watch that because I'm 35 years old. So the idea that like just working from home and having a 5-year-old to keep you company, that's not fully enriching. Don't blame yourself. You need to you need a social circle of peers, not just to be mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and a lot of times you hear moms feel guilty about that, as if shouldn't I just love my kid's presence every second? No,
No.
no. These kids and they're needy and they don't listen and they say I got a joke and then they tell you a joke that don't make no sense. That don't mean you don't love them, but yeah, that's why your best friend isn't other 5-year-olds. The only 5-year-olds you even tolerate is your own. So keep that in mind when you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Like, what are you gonna do to fill back up your cup so you can pour? Then the
Mm-hmm.
other thing that I've said on here many times: feeling follows action, and by that I of course mean that instead of saying like I'll, let's say what you used to do is go for walks. I'm just saying anything. You say, I'll go for a walk when I feel good. But
Go
that's not
ahead.
how that works because walking is what makes you feel good. So what you must do is take action first. I've decided to take a walk. Then after it, see how you feel.
Yeah.
Don't say I'll take a shower or I'll do my hair when I feel pretty, when I feel like it. You're not going to feel like it when you're dirty and your hair's a mess and all that. Instead, you do it first.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it takes to do that, that's the game within the game. You simply decide to do it. Make it finite if you want. Instead of saying from now on, I don't know your problem, mom, but because you said you're in a slump, instead of saying, instead of saying I'm going to wake up and take a shower every day for the rest of my life, just say for this next 5 days, the
Yeah.
first thing I do when I get up, I'll take a shower. The next 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
After that,
Mm-hmm.
let's see what that did for me.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Celeste?
No, I love that. I really love the car example of like, you may not feel like getting gas, but if you're on the highway, you're not gonna not get gas because you realize like you may run out of gas and be stuck on the highway, which cause more problems, which happens with our mental health. And then the last point I wanted to make, which you made at the end, when Jeff talks about like starting with the shower, right? Starting with something small, because it says you're trying to implement new ideas. I think sometimes people try to do so much at one time, and that's like not really realistic for your system when it's been kind of, probably if you're working from home, like rolling out of bed into work. That's something to try to like separate yourself from. And I don't know if you're a single mom or, have help, but sometimes it may mean waking up a little bit earlier, before your kid wakes up, if you need to do something to like help get yourself prepared. But if you are just waking up, rushing into work in mom mode or partner mode or whatever, you're going to find yourself drained all the time because you're not giving anything back to yourself. There's a really great quote I posted it a couple weeks ago, but it's like, you can live with the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And discipline, like when we talk about this discipline or trying to like just do, because when you just do, when you say I am going to go for that walk, your mind starts to prepare you for it. But when you say I might go for a walk if I feel like it, your mind's like, well, I guess we don't feel like it because we ain't felt like it in a couple of years, we ain't gonna feel like it today. But just getting up and doing it, and I'm not trying to say just getting up and doing it as if it's that easy, but I mean, it feels really hard. But think about the reward. What are you trying to gain? Right? If I said like, I'll give you $1,000 to get up at 6 a.m., everybody's gonna get up at 6 a.m. if they're getting $1,000, but nobody's giving us $1,000. But if I say I'm getting up in the morning because I want to be a better mom, I want to be better for myself, I want to take care of my mental health. I know it may not change today, but if I stay consistent, my system will work on getting acclimated to the environment that I'm providing for it.
Right. And the last thing I'll say, and he puts it a funny way, but you got to I take information from all sources. And controversial media firebrand Jordan Peterson has a rule, which I think is a good rule, even though I don't necessarily advocate for the guy, which is treat yourself like someone you have a responsibility to help. So
Yeah.
you know how when your boss really needs something, you work a little overtime and do it, unpaid overtime. And you know how when your child really needs something, you don't say, I don't feel like it. They got a fever. You don't say, well, I don't feel like getting your children stuff.
Right.
Get up and you do it. What about you? Don't you have a responsibility to help you in that same way? Or no, screw yourself,
Yeah.
right? Treat yourself
Yeah.
like someone you have a responsibility to nurture and protect, because that is true.
Yeah.
And if you're not here, who will take care of that 5-year-old?
Right, right. It's always interesting when people let themselves down. They take themselves off the schedule they created for themselves, and they kind of give up. And I'll name somebody in their life, whether it's their kid or a best friend, and I say, if such and such told you that I tried it once, I can't do it, would you say, you know what? Yeah, give up. You would be more encouraging to that kid or encouraging to your best friend. And I said, why can't you do that? Why don't you deserve that same encouragement? And people really like choke up when I like frame it that way. And it's like sometimes we don't even see how hard we are on ourselves because we've been so hard, or we grew up in a system that was hard on us. And so we adapted to that same mentality. So it's really important to really think about how you are treating yourself, what you're saying to yourself, and make sure you're not canceling appointments that you create for yourself. Bam. All right. This is a two-part question. I don't know. Maybe I should put one up first. Let me see if it all come up. Oh, it does. Okay, yeah, it does come up. So I have two questions. One, I'm in the process of looking for a therapist, and it's extremely challenging. Do you have suggestions? I'll answer that one. Two, over the last 2 years, I have been working on myself and realized that some of my family, especially my mom, is not healthy for me. She can be very negative about everything. And when she does not get her way with me, she can be mean. I love her dearly, but I am trying to create some space without completely abandoning her. I'll answer part one, and then I'll have Jeff answer part two. So, as far as therapy, it's like extremely challenging, I know. And like I said earlier in the show, somebody that, if you are, if you are somebody that is not able to find one, don't give up on the idea of working on yourself. But one way is Psychology Today. There's also innopsych.com. And then also, if you have insurance, your insurance can help you find a list of therapists that take your insurance. And if you're looking for a particular, like if you're looking for somebody of color, you can ask for that. We're on panels and they ask us about our demographics. So that's a way. And then, fall, if you're in a cold weather place, fall's coming up, um, and winter and it's cold. A lot of people say, like, oh, I get the blues around this time, but we're not getting enough sun. We're not moving around. I start taking vitamin D around the fall just to help with my mood. I'm not telling people, I'm not trying to advertise vitamin D. It's not a bad thing to take, but definitely check with your doctor, because you'll be surprised. People are walking around with zero low vitamin D, and vitamin D is highly linked to depression. So definitely, like, be okay with getting a workup, but also do some of the things that me and Jeff just talked about doing too while you're in the process of looking, and be like diligent. So email and then call. Be okay. Like if they don't respond, I try to respond. I'm not the best, but I do. Email, call, like just don't give up on trying, especially because that's what you want. And your health center, if you are connected to a health center, they may have a waiting list, or providers too, because a lot of people don't know the different ways that they can look for a therapist.
Very helpful.
All right. And then the second part, I'll put that up for you. Do you want to add anything about the therapy thing?
Celeste, I have nothing on that you didn't say.
Okay.
So the second part of the question was basically, I've been working on myself, and I've slowly realized that people in my family, but particularly my mom, it's not healthy for me, right? In this case, mom's negative, and she can be mean when there's any type of conflict, right? I still love her, which is what makes it hard, but I'm trying to create some space without completely abandoning her. Well, I think what this letter writer is really talking about is reestablishing boundaries, which with family can be very hard. This is not, by the way, oh, that's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And this is what I mean by that. The simple truth is, a first thing, like, here's like some ways. So mom's negative, you're working on yourself. First thing you could say, hey, mom, she says something negative. Well, I don't know why you're doing that. You're just going to quit like you quit on everything.
Right.
And you say, mom, when you say stuff like that, it makes me not want to like share with you in that way. So I'm going to ask you, do you think you can try to not be so negative on my goals or whatever? Now, I'm not telling you when you do that, they always agree. Half the time or more, she might be like, what? Now you're talking all this mumbo jumbo and I raised you and I brought you in the world and I took you out. Maybe. So then the next thing is like, okay, you can say it or you can not say it, but you can choose, okay, I don't share my future plans with Ma anymore because it hurts me. It takes away from my enthusiasm when she becomes a detractor. So to some degree, mom tells you what mom can handle by her behavior. Mm-hmm. Now, slowly but surely, if she's finding new ways, you're so happy and you got a new job and you lost weight and you learned how to play the piano, and she's just crapping on all of it. At a certain point, she's crapping on your whole life, and there's nowhere to go. All there is to do is be like, all right, Ma, we'll see you soon. But as you do it, you get to say, Mom, here's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have a good relationship with you, but part of that is, if I'm going to succeed on this journey, the negativity, it's like a weight around my neck. Mm-hmm. I love you, but it's like a weight around my neck. Mm-hmm. So if we can work on that, we can continue to share. But and as much as we can't, and as much as you insist on being like that, I'm going to have to limit our interactions. And then you follow through. What happens probably, if I had to pick something that happened the most, it's not that mom says, she doesn't turn around, 30 years of behavior and go, right, you know what, darling, you're right. I'm changing everything starting now. New personality.
Right.
The most common thing is they go, yeah. And then you have to do it. And then sometimes they come around and sometimes they don't. And that's the truth.
I know. Yeah, I know. And then this is like hard, right? Because it could be a sibling, any kind of family member, mom, the parent especially. Like I do this a lot with people, with helping them establish boundaries. You can't hold people. Jermaine Morris, he said, you can't hold people accountable for boundaries you never established. And it sounds like because you've been working on yourself, you're recognizing some of the things that you're triggering you. Like this is why like sitting with your let me just say sitting with yourself can be hard if you're not used to it. I don't want to glorify it. When if you grew up in chaos or are so used to chaos and then all of a sudden you're trying to sit with yourself, you're like, what do I do? You pick up my phone and get on Instagram.
Celeste, what does sit with yourself mean?
Oh, when I say sit with yourself, reflecting, like reflecting on your day, reflecting on what went well, what you struggled with, like those things are so important to do. And I recognize it has to be done in small doses, but you've been doing this for the last 2 years. So kudos to you. But you know, recognizing and it, you know, people, whether we're in therapy, they're in therapy or you becoming self-aware, you start to see the people in your circle and you struggle. You're like, wait, what's going on with them? I said, no, no, no. They've always been that way. You've changed. You've come to understand what's going on. And so that's challenging because now you have to recognize the role that you're playing in it, right? Obviously, as a child, you hadn't, you had to be in that space. As an adult, we really have to be mindful on what we allow. And you're not abandoning her by putting boundaries in place or whoever is feeling a connection with this because this is really big for people. You can't abandon somebody for what your needs are because God forbid something happens to you and you break down from all of the triggers from the situation. What are you going to do about that? So you, like Jeff said in the last question, show up for yourself. You show up for yourself by putting boundaries in place. And it's if she's calling in the morning and she's negative, hey, you know, I love you, but I really, this is not, I have to get to work, I got to get the baby, whatever. I'm not trying to be rude, but if you can't stop, I really have to go, right? And that's not being rude, you're not being disrespectful, you're not abandoning her, she's choosing to abandon you because she's not adhering to your boundaries.
Although I just want to say, because that's so important, we don't promise that she will see it that way.
Correct.
We don't promise that she will see. She may say, see, ever since you moved, you think you're too good, or whatever people say. So to some degree, you have to say, like, look, this is it. It's actually not a negotiation.
Yes.
Like your boundaries of how much you'll let somebody be negative towards you is not really a negotiation. If you think of, just imagine this: you bring over a new friend, and when your mother meets the friend, she says all the things to the friend that she'd be saying to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Imagine how quickly you put, Ma, what are you doing?
Right.
Did you just call her fat? Ma, what
Right.
do you see what I'm saying? Like, it would be crazy. But because it's you go, oh, that's just how she is. Meanwhile, you die a little inside when she does it. Right? How much dying inside you gonna do? You need all that. You need that vitality. You're not gonna be able to keep improving on yourself and dying inside. So
I
this is why
know.
it's important to do it. But I'm also trying to be very realistic. Sometimes people will say, do this and everyone will be happy immediately. We don't promise
Yeah.
that. This
No.
is either this is how you help your mother to grow too, or this is how you grow past trauma, accepting that everyone won't make the journey with you the way you want them to.
I know that's really that's a big part of the healing process is not being able to take people along this journey of life with you. And so like there's grieving and healing, you know, sometimes people glorify like just do this and do that and not talk about like Jeff and I when we are breaking down like, well, you know, she may struggle with that. This Facebook user says your relationship with sugar will part real quick if the doctors tell you you have diabetes. Not always, but
And you would hope.
but I know your point.
People that want to keep their foot.
Sorry. But some people do make a change when they get a diagnosis. I'm just saying I would relate the same concept to unhealthy toxic relationships. Somebody else is saying the second question, I'm in the same situation. I made the decision to take a step back from her. I go see her, but don't stay too long at her house. Even phone calls are cut short. It's okay to keep your distance to work on yourself, on how to react when around her. And it's okay for you both to go to therapy together. That's a really great suggestion.
All those comments are good, and that's in the end, you have so much power over how you change and almost no power over how others change. And almost
Yes.
half the questions they say, how do I make my kid do X? She didn't say this. Well,
Right.
this last letter I didn't say, but how do I
Right.
make my mom do Y? And everything we're saying, we acknowledge.
Yeah.
You can't make your kids, you can't make your mom. here's what you can do, but to some degree, you have to accept that other people get to choose too. Some people's mothers remain toxic and get cut out of their lives completely.
I know.
Other people's mothers say, you know,
Mm.
they change so as not to be pulled apart from their kid. Both of
Right,
those things
right.
happen.
And I just want to point out too, some of our caregivers grew up in other situations that created the way that they are. So just, looking at it from a holistic standpoint. So I think that it's a hard thing because you don't pick where you're born or who you're born to, or what happens throughout your childhood. But as you become aware of it, to help release some of the pain, just kind of think about like what they've gone through, not to minimize what you're dealing with, nor to say that it's okay for the how they treat you, because regardless of what somebody goes through, it's still not okay to treat somebody in a negative way.
Right? An easy way to think of it: if a drunk driver drives over you in a pickup truck, right? You're on the sidewalk. Whose fault is it? 100% theirs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has to do physical therapy?
Yeah.
Who has to take their meds?
Right.
Who has to go to all their doctor's visits? It
Right.
doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's your responsibility to heal yourself.
That
That's
part.
just the situation. I'm not saying that's even fair. You want
It's
a bad
not.
life or don't you?
Yeah.
That's that. But that's also true for, if mom's overly negative, it's very easy to imagine that mom suffered a lot as a young person and even has
Exactly.
suffered a lot as an adult. Very easy to imagine. That being said, heal yourself or you're going to lose access to your child.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got time for one more question I'm gonna put up. Um, Dang, is this gonna be too big? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna read it. So it says, "What's a good time to ask someone you have been talking to about talking?" Wait, sorry. Let me say this again. What's a good time to ask someone you have been talking to about
Taking.
taking things serious or his intentions? I have been talking to a guy for 2 months. We have been on a couple of dates and have been talking a lot. I have been in the situation in the past where things lingered, and I found myself in a situation that felt like a relationship but was not. I do not want to scare him, but I am also 35 years old and I don't want to waste time dating someone who may not be ready to settle
Couldn't you just read them this question?
down.
This person seems to know their situation very well, right? Couldn't you just
Yeah.
read them this question, right? It doesn't say, I like them a lot, but that's implied, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
right? In other words, what I'm reading is, I would like to get more serious,
Mm-hmm.
right? He hasn't indicated that to me, or we're in a gray area. I've lived in this gray area before and don't prefer it. So I want to be explicit. So couldn't you just say, I want to be explicit in a way that's not so pressuring, but kind of more like, well, this is it. I don't want to scare him, but I'm also 35 and don't want to waste time. So if this person, when you say serious, if I assume that means marriage and or children, particularly when you mention 35, that sounds like sometimes people would say, oh, my biological clock is ticking. As a
Right.
matter of fact, the truth of the matter is, uh, 35 plus is what they call in obstetrics a geriatric pregnancy, right? As so
Really? 35?
35 plus geriatric pregnancy. So
Damn.
with that being said, um, you're right to say this. I don't promise it won't scare him,
Right.
because he might say, "Well, I like what we're doing right now. I like that," and he might, and that will be his choice. And then you'll have your choice whether to continue this or to say, either we go further or we cut it off. But I'm not staying parked here. I think this situation is so common
Yeah, it
that
is.
it's like as common as can be. But it's not so common. This writer laid this out so clearly. That's not so common. This seems like someone who's a good communicator to me and could do this.
And has learned from their, so for in the past they were not, um and currently they want to do things differently. And it's like you're clear on what you want. And so, one thing Jeff always says, how you say, I don't want to scare him, you can't guarantee how somebody's going to feel about what your needs are or what you want out of life. um and I don't know, I feel like when we was growing up, you just became boyfriend and girlfriend. But there weren't a lot of choices. There was no apps, there was no social media. It was just the party line.
Yep. I've been on the party line. Some of y'all may, some of y'all, oh, that's some of y'all finally realized that's where I recognize that voice from. The party line.
Oh, I bet you used to get everybody on the party line.
That was back when I only had three facial hairs. But yeah, the bottom line is I think you lay it out like this in a way. Now sometimes people treat things like an ultimatum that's really just an alignment. So this is what I mean. If you go, look, I'm tired of people playing with my heart, all right? So are we get married or what? Well, that's not accurate because you didn't say he promised to marry you and then didn't either. Instead, just go, hey, listen, I like you and I'm looking to know like your intentions. And you don't have to want what I want, but here's what I want. If you don't want it, I know I don't want it. What we're doing now, I've enjoyed it. I don't want to do it forever. So what are your intentions? Writer says, you don't want to scare him. What's the alternative? Compromise? Well, that's the thing. Certain things cannot be compromised. How about we get married 180 days a year? How about we have half a kid? Right? Everything doesn't have a compromise, unfortunately. So some things are, you ask someone what they want. Now, a common refrain is, I don't know, I'm still thinking about it, I'm taking it slow, so forth, so on, which is not illegal. It's not immoral.
But it's so common.
It's so common. It's not illegal. It's not immoral. It's very common. The question is, to what degree do you accept it because you like somebody? So you say, well, maybe one day they'll change their mind. I'm anticipating challenges that haven't occurred yet technically, but they occur enough that I would, it's not wild to anticipate it.
Yeah. Well, and then let's say they say one day I'll change my mind and I decide to continue dating him, then the ownership is on me whether or not he changes his, like, I cannot be mad I could be mad, but it's not his fault if he decides that day ain't here yet. Right? Or what do you think about that?
No, that's it. So if someone just keeps hitting you with maybe, sometimes you got to make a choice. You ever put together like a group trip and right? And people, they say like, where are we going again? How much it costs again? They won't say no, but they just won't say, yes, here's the money. At a certain point, you got to say, all right, well, it's okay. Maybe next time. You know what I'm talking about, Celeste?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You're putting together, like, you're putting together your wedding invitations. And every person who comes adds $100 to the cost of the wedding. And you tell people, RSVP or you're not in. First, you send them the letter. Now, in modern times, it's an email. Then finally, 3 people didn't. You text them. They don't answer. All right, you're not coming.
Oh, wow.
I know they didn't say no, but they said no by not saying yes.
Uh-huh.
And that's the situation. If this woman didn't say this, but if someone said, you said, I want you to marry me. Do you want to marry me? And they go, I'm going to think about it. How long would you hang around?
Yeah, I know.
So that's it. I'm not saying now, let me be clear. I have no value judgment. I only value marriage as much for you as you value it for yourself. I don't give a shit about marriage. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't, but I know people think it's a big deal. So if it's a big deal to you, then, and it's not a big deal to him, or he doesn't see you as the one, then that's that. The one other thing I'll say is I've seen a meme floating around just this week that I must admit is true, which is like, until a man tells you that you're his girlfriend, go on all them dates and go on all them dinners and all that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's true too. That makes perfect sense to me. But I know you say, but I don't like no one else. I like him. Okay. Well, that's that. Then I guess enjoy being backburnered forever.
I know, yeah. It's a tough situation. I mean, I haven't been in that situation, but I do speak to people in it all the time, and I remind people that they have choices, and I feel like sometimes when situations come up and somebody's not ready, I think people will feel like they're waiting for that other person, but technically, you have a choice as well. And I always want to remind people that you have options. And I know, like, starting, the biggest thing is not wanting to start over. And so I understand that idea, but time is still passing, and what you say you want is not happening. Really thinking about that.
right? That thing you said, not want to start over,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of logical fallacies, that is called the sunk cost fallacy, right? We talked about this before, but
We
the
did.
sunk cost is the idea that you say, well, I can't give up now. I've invested so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, all that time is gone. The only question is, what
Mm-hmm.
are you going to do with the time you have left? You can't get
I
the time
know.
back no matter what happens. Another way to think of it is, and the opposite of the sunk cost fallacy in some ways is opportunity cost. Meaning, if your goal is to get married and have a life partner, if that's your goal, right, or to have a child, right, every moment that you stay with, and your time is finite, which it is, every moment that you stay with somebody who's not doing it, it's an opportunity cost, because the 100th night you spent with the dude who's not going to do it, that could have been your first date with the dude that was going to do it.
Yeah, that's
So
so
you
true.
cost yourself the opportunity to do the thing, which is the
Mm-hmm.
definition of wasting your time. Again, I don't think you should have kids. I don't think you shouldn't. I don't think you should get married. I don't think
Right,
you should.
right,
You said that
right.
you want seriousness. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want seriousness, every minute you spend with someone who declines to be serious is
Mm-hmm.
robbing you of time to be with someone who wants to be serious with you.
True. I love it. What's the moral of the story today?
Oh dear God.
We was in different angles. We talked about college kids. We talked about mom toxic mothers. They didn't use the word toxic, sorry, but
Mhm.
mom relationships. We talked about partner, trying to figure out the partner thing, and there was one more we talked about. I already forgot. Oh, taking care of your mental health, which is good. A Facebook user, I just wanted to read this. I like they wrote this after the taking care of your mental health. I like to wake up and take a shower, basically start one small task a week. Talking to myself out loud has helped me in the morning. I literally yell at myself and I tell myself, nope, Sophia, we are going to do X, Y, and Z today. Writing things down help and stating your why out loud every day. I go on my porch every morning. The sun in the morning is real.
I
Really
love
good.
everything Sophia said. Sophia sounds,
Mm-hmm.
but imagine Sophia lives alone. You live next door. You just hear her yelling to herself. You'd be like, damn, Sophia. But then you also be like, Sophia's about her business. She's power walking out the house at 7:30, like, I'm doing it, tackling the world. You'd be like, damn.
Because she's talking to her mind. I'm telling you, talking to yourself in a positive way can help reframe a lot of those negative thoughts.
Sophia's a beast. And a common thread through all these is the difference between, you know what they all have in common? Making a
What?
choice when you don't control the outcome,
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
So you don't control whether your kids go to therapy. You don't control whether you're the guy you like is going to get serious with you.
The
But
news, what's happening around the
you don't
world, you
control the
don't
news. But
control.
what happens is, so knowing that you don't control it, are you going to be paralyzed by that, or are you going to make a move?
I
Right?
know.
You make a move, you get in the driver's seat basically, and to some degree, what happens happens. Right? You
Yeah,
accept, just like you rolled with all the punches so far. A lot of the situations in your life are not the ones that you chose necessarily, or not the ones that you could have predicted, but you're here, you're surviving. So in that
yeah,
same way, whatever comes, if this dude doesn't want to get serious, I'll be sad, and then I'll move on, because that's what I did last time, and it was okay. Those dudes that I used to cry over, now I don't even like them. I wouldn't even touch them. They come back in my DMs and I don't answer. And this dude, he could be a future husband, or he could be that. Your kids, you accept that they're not always going to be. One could go to therapy and one couldn't. They both could go to therapy. Neither could go to therapy. But you know what? Either way, I'm going to support them. But at the same time, they're going to have to make their own decisions, like I made mine. There's no 100%. There's only, what am I going to do in an uncertain world?
I love that. Jeff, you thank you so much. You know, I never got to tell people about what you do. I always treat every episode like it's the first. Can you just tell people like what you do and who you are and how they can reach you?
Yep. I'm an executive coach, trainer, facilitator, all these things. I do a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion work. I do a lot of coaching. Basically, what all of that has in common is I help people, whether they're doing a light buff or a total rebuild, trying to become the person that you aspire to be from where you are, the person that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard work, but I don't even know. I don't know how anyone doesn't go through life at least working on it. The alternative to me is way harder, which is being stuck
Yeah.
on something and never going towards that ideal you. If you
Yeah.
need me, you can always reach out, jeff@rogersleads.com.
And the
There you
dope
go.
thing about Jeff, like he kept saying a million times, is really he has no stake in the outcome that you want. He just wants you, he helps you with the outcome that you say you want. Like he's really like a blank slate. He doesn't, some people they have their motives of how they think things should be like. That's just not Jeff. I've been working with him for a long time. He doesn't think that way, which is really dope and uncommon.
Well, here's
But
the
it's
secret. I appreciate you saying that. And here's the secret. You'll be happiest when you're living your best life, not when you're living
yes,
some prescribed best life. And that's why,
yes,
I don't know if y'all, just as an example, the CFO, oh, I already forgot the name of the company, but the CFO of $1 million company jumped off a roof last week. He's a
Bed
CFO.
Bath and
It was
Beyond.
Bed Bath and Beyond. That's right.
Yeah,
He's a CFO of a company. Think of how much money he's made and all these things. Jumped off a roof,
it's
right?
crazy.
Flying down past all the janitors on all the floor that will never touch a tenth of his salary. I'm not making light of this. It makes me sad. But the one thing I know, somewhere or another, his life wasn't going what was good for him. No matter what people on the outside
Right,
thought. For
right.
him, he felt despair. And so the goal is for you to be living the kind of life that you feel good about. And that
Yeah.
can happen.
I just want to say something real quick. This guy, I seen this thing. It was like 2 or 3 minutes. He worked at a funeral home, and he talked about, what happens when you die, and then they bury you, and then people cry, and then life goes on. They learn to live without you. His point was that live your life for you, because after you're gone, nobody cares. Nobody's going to be like, remember that thing Celeste did, that mental health thing she was talking about? Can you believe she was doing that? Because that's what people were saying when I started. But you just keep doing what you have to do as long as you're not harming anybody. Think about what you really want, because when we're gone, like nobody cares. You know what I mean?
Where all the people who you want to, you go on vacation, and instead of enjoying the vacation, you're posing for pictures to share on social media. Or you ever have something, they're like at a party or a concert, and they're like going live, or like showing they're at fireworks. The only
Yeah,
good thing about fireworks is you being there seeing the fireworks.
I
Me seeing it
know.
on Facebook Live doesn't do it. But
Yeah,
people do that because they're trying to like say, everyone be impressed.
yeah,
Live for yourself. And I don't
yeah.
mean that in a selfish way. I
No,
mean, live the ideal version of who you want to be.
yeah, yeah.
You can do it.
You can do it. Yep. Jeff, this was awesome. You'll be back next month, right?
I sure will.
Thank you, homie. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you've never been into this podcast before, I go live with Jeff every month. There's a ton of episodes that we have together. If you go to celestetherapist.com/podcast and you click on the link, it will take you to a long stream of episodes that we have done. So until next time, beautiful people, I will talk to you later.